Hi, welcome to the weekend roundup here with myself, Darren Bartlett, where we talk about the African stories that were big on the continent. Now, the White House hosted African presidents from Senegal, Gabon, Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, and they were talking about the relationships of the two African countries. But something happened, and that is Trump for you. You know what he said? He made a comment to the Liberian president that he speaks very good English, asking him where he learned his English from. That became a laughing stock because everyone was surprised, like, how can President Trump ask a leader of Liberia, who we all know that their official language is English, asking him where he attended school? That was not very much welcome, even when they try to smile. In fact, his comments go further to say that he actually speaks better English than the others on the table. That is not something you want to say in the presence of other African leaders. You make them look like they didn't go to school, like they can't speak English, they never had an opportunity to go to the best schools. Let me tell you, most African presidents actually speak English, if not all of them. The few who never communicate using English they just make a choice because they don't want to be misunderstood in their communication. If you want to test them to know that they actually can speak good English, try them. Try them, and then you will understand. So that, I think, sounded very undiplomatic. I mean, we've seen Donald Trump doing these things in the White House. Remember how he hosted Ramaphosa and gagged him in the media, making allegations of genocide happening in South Africa without proper proof. In fact, they presented pictures that were of people dying in Congo of diseases like Ebola, and there was an emergency situation where health workers had swung into action to kind of prevent the situation, and that picture was presented as one of the evidences that there is a genocide happening against the white people in South Africa. Trump, sometimes you need to listen to your team that can help you in diplomacy, or you'd rather not meet them. That is my suggestion. Not moving far away from that story, something else happened in Nigeria where the foreign minister called Yusuf Maitama made an interesting comment, citing, Flavor Flav, if you know the rapper, saying, you know what, I'm not going to accept anything from you. You can go read the lines yourself in the song. I just paraphrased those lines. But here's what happened, and this is what led to that conversation. And that's why I said not far away from the story that I just told you. Now, America has been meeting presidents or leaders of the African continent, or the foreign offices have been meeting and trying to strike a deal whereby America will deport the illegal immigrants from USA to those countries, and Nigeria happened to be one of them. And here's what happened. So America wanted to deport 300 Venezuelans from USA to Nigeria, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Yusuf, said that cannot be accepted because Nigeria itself has its own problems. You see, in the last Saturday video, I asked you that what can an African country do with the people who are being deported to those countries? They do not have a startup. You have to settle them in or put them in refugee camps. I have no idea. But they will definitely become citizens of Nigeria if they are to accept the 300 Venezuelans who are being deported. Two, you have to find them work. You must treat them as citizens of the country, give them status and everything. So in exchange for what? Now we go back to the first story that I was talking about, where President Trump met Liberia, Ghana, Liberia, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, and the things they're talking about here is access to rare minerals, and that's some of the things that they get. That, look, we're going to provide you with this, but we want also access to these rare minerals, but you also have to accept these people that we are deporting. This conversation is not only with those people or even Nigeria. People who are into these conversations also include countries like Rwanda. Remember, Rwanda was so much in the picture, where the British wanted to deport immigrants to Rwanda, but that fell through because the court said that will not happen. But when it comes to America, well, the court agreed that people can be deported, and that's how South Sudan received people who were arrested, and those ones who were also serving or completing their sentences in America. 8 of them are on their way, or they already even arrived in South Sudan. The deaths about their travel was not communicated, but the court ruled that they can be deported. So that set a precedent for other more immigrants who are in USA to be deported, which included Nigeria. But Nigeria said, we are not going to accept this kind of deal. The other 5 that made the president Trump, likely they will accept this deal because we don't know so much that they discussed. Usually, the American African summit happens and they invite almost all the presidents of Africa. But this time we've been seeing them going in either one of them or pieces or bits, things like that, just a small number of them. Ramaphosa was the first to go there where he was gagged, by the way. And guess what? He thought, but probably they're making a better relationship or diplomatic relationships with America, but they ended up getting tariffs placed on them just this week. That is not a place that you want to be in when you're negotiating such a deal. So Nigeria is saying no to the 300 Venezuelans, who, by the way, Venezuela itself is not even accepting them in their country. So I think that the best place of residence is where they have been because they had an address before they were arrested and they are thinking of deporting them. So Nigeria is saying, we won't accept this. And this is my problem. You want to take people in a foreign country and force them onto the other countries. And if they refuse, you're going to place sanctions on them. But you're not thinking about that. These countries themselves survive on donations, borrowing money, and themselves that are struggling with even allocating money in their own countries. If money is not even enough to take care of the people, and you are adding them a population of other people who don't even want to be in Africa itself or to the countries that they have signed to. I posed the question the other time and say, is it possible to ask these people where they would like to go? Maybe they would make a decision on the countries that have been presented before them and they make a choice rather than get a guy, take him to South Sudan, get a guy, take him to Djibouti, take a guy, take him to what? Sao Paulo and Principale, countries where they don't think they want to be. So that story is an interesting one that I thought you need to watch out for. Another one, Kenya never ceases to have news coming through because what is happening in Kenya is that President Ruto came out after the protests, and while he was addressing actually a rally, he said he gave orders to police, actually, let me say it that way, that they should shoot the people who are trying to loot other people's businesses because those people don't mean well. The intention is not to go protest on the streets, but the intention is to damage people's businesses. So if the intention is to protest and you call it a peaceful protest, why are you looting businesses? Why are you burning out people's houses? So Ruto is on the spotlight again, where human rights watchdogs are saying that is not a statement you want to give on air, being a president and a commander-in-chief who only gives such orders, because then police will take advantage and kill more people. Already 60 people died last year in the protest that happened in June 25th. They spread over to almost the whole year when people wanted to go on the streets there, but they chose not where they go to the streets. So this year, the same date, 25th of June, Kenyans still went back on the streets, remembering those who died in the last year's protest. Again, they had Saba Saba, which they again went to the streets and people died again. The injuries of people who were injured were about 300 people, and that number is likely to have grown, or maybe those are the only people that they managed to account for. Tough for the Kenyans there, but that is an interesting story. Now, when I'm closing the story, I want us to go to Cameroon. Let's wind up all closing this Saturday's big stories. We go to Cameroon, where Paul Biya, who is now 92, has not yet expressed interest in standing for presidency. But what is happening is that the election date is now known. It's going to be October the 12th of this year. So we'll have interesting elections around that time. We have Tanzania in October, we have Cameroon in October, now you have Malawi in September. These are elections that we shall be following. But here's the thing. So the Electoral College, as soon as it convenes, it's giving the candidates about 10 days to go and submit in their applications. Will Biya be the president again? Most likely, because he has not expressed it. At 92, maybe he may say, I'm tired, but we don't know that yet. He may be tired, but I think that he will stand. The day they removed the term limits, that was the day I thought that he will stand until he dies, probably in power. There was even rumor that had come out at some points that Paul Biya had actually passed on, which was not true. So you need to verify your information anytime of the day, the moment you get yourself on the news. So Cameroon, we now know that you'll go to the polls on October the 12th, and I'll make sure that I bring you that news here on my channel. Thank you. Keep subscribed in, and I will bring you the stories that are making maybe news on the African continent. That's the biggest stories. Every Saturday, I combine those that I have not talked about during the week. That is what I give you on a Saturday. My name is Darren Bartlett, and I will see you in the next one.